Tonight, a historic ruling from the Supreme Court on presidential immunity with major consequences for former President Trump, President Biden, and any president that will follow. The justices rule former presidents are shielded from prosecutions for some acts, but not all, greatly expanding the power of the executive office. What does this mean for the impending trials of former President Trump, and could it impact the upcoming election? ABC News Live brings you team coverage of this landmark decision and what comes next. And
fundamentally, Oregon was really unprepared for the crisis that is fentanyl because of our lack of treatment options. And we just have to fundamentally think differently about how we attack that.
Oregon voters decriminalized hard drugs less than 4 years ago, but why have so many come to regret it? Good evening, everyone. I'm Trevor Ault in for Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're following all those stories and much more, including President Biden under pressure, the behind-the-scenes discussions happening days after his widely criticized debate performance, plus former Trump aide Steve Bannon officially behind bars tonight, what he said moments before reporting to federal prison, and the demand for answers from a New York community after a 13-year-old was shot and killed by police. But of course, we begin with that historic decision by our nation's highest court, the Supreme Court today, using its final day of their term to redefine presidential power as we know it. And in less than an hour, President Joe Biden is expected to weigh in for the first time publicly. The justices today ruling on former President Donald Trump's claim of absolute immunity from criminal prosecution while in office. The sharply divided court deciding along political lines 6-3 that former presidents are immune from prosecution for their official acts as president, but not for so-called unofficial acts. In response, dissenting Justice Sonia Sotomayor writing, "In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law." Trump today celebrating the decision immediately, proclaiming on social media, quote, "The Supreme Court totally dismantled most of the charges against me." The ruling will also limit what evidence can be used at trial, and it will almost certainly delay the January 6th case and the classified documents case against the former president until after America votes this November. Now, we will be bringing you live coverage as President Biden comments on the decision tonight from the White House. Of course, our team is standing by with more on the decision and how it will impact this presidential election and every presidency that follows. Our Terry Moran starts us off from the Supreme Court.
At the Supreme Court today, a landmark decision that dramatically enhances the power of the presidency and makes it much harder to prosecute Donald Trump. At stake, whether the federal criminal case against Trump for his alleged conspiracy to overthrow the 2020 election, including January 6th, would go forward. Trump claiming as a former president he could not be prosecuted. Absolute immunity for any official acts taken while in office, and he argues everything he did then was official. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the court's 6-3 conservative majority, gave Trump much of what he sought. First, Roberts declaring the president may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers. Those include, Roberts wrote, the president's commander-in-chief powers, pardon power, hiring and firing federal officials, and more. Then the Chief Justice went further. He is entitled, at a minimum, to a presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. That sets a very high bar for prosecutors to overcome, covering most of what a president does. And Roberts added another layer of protection for presidents. In dividing official from unofficial conduct, courts may not inquire into the president's motives. The bottom line, in the Trump case, the lower court judge must now sift through the evidence, separate out Trump's official acts from unofficial conduct, and see if prosecutors can overcome the presumption that presidents are immune from prosecution. That process will all but certainly push the case past the November election. Within minutes of the decision coming down, Donald Trump was declaring victory, posting on social media, "Big win for our Constitution and democracy. Proud to be an American." Much of the Chief Justice's ruling essentially echoed what Trump has been saying on the campaign trail.
I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple.
The court's three liberals seemed stunned and outraged. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in an impassioned dissent, declaring, "Today's decision reshapes the institution of the presidency, puts the president above the law." And she painted a grim vision of what it could mean. When he uses his official powers in any way under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune. Immune, immune, immune. And she concluded, with fear for our democracy, I dissent. President Biden's campaign saying the stakes in this election just got much higher. They just handed Donald Trump the keys to a dictatorship.
Just a seismic decision here, and Terry Moran joins us now from outside the Supreme Court. Terry, obviously this is centered on former President Trump, the charges that he's facing here. But what are the implications going forward, not just for the case, but for the presidencies in the future?
Well, Trevor, the implications are huge. This was a case of first impression, as they say. Never before had the Supreme Court had to decide whether presidents could be prosecuted. And the court answered that today by really making it much, much harder to hold presidents accountable for crimes. And so the question going forward is, how will future presidents, not just Donald Trump, use the immense powers of that office virtually free under this decision of any worry that they're breaking the law? Trevor?
A tremendous expansion of power for what was already the most powerful seat. Terry Moran, thank you. And this Supreme Court ruling hits directly at the Justice Department and Special Counsel Jack Smith. The DOJ and Special Counsel must now determine what charges against Donald Trump may be considered official acts as president and which ones are unofficial. So we want to get now to ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas. So Pierre, this could also impact the classified documents case against the former president, correct?
Indeed. Trevor, the fact that we did not get a statement from the AG or special counsel today speaks volumes. Not a single word. It tells you that DOJ officials feel the need to really study the implications of this ruling. One of the things we need to look for is whether the judge in the January 6th case, after reading the Supreme Court's decision, concludes that the prosecution needs to be much more narrowly defined. In the special counsel's documents case, there's little doubt that Trump's attorneys will now argue that when he took those classified documents, it was an official act. But a number of the charges in the documents case deal with what Trump did after he left office, including allegedly trying to keep the documents from the FBI. So the impact of today's ruling on that case is unclear, Trevor.
No doubt we'll kick the calendar down the road, though. Pierre Thomas, thank you. And we want to continue breaking down the massive implications for executive power here. So now we're joined by attorney and ABC News analyst Sarah Isgur, who also worked as a spokesperson for the Trump administration's Department of Justice. Sarah, thanks so much for being here. Always a pleasure talking to you. So former President Trump has already taken to social media to proclaim that the Supreme Court, quote, totally dismantled most of the charges against me, end quote. Now, we do know that this ruling says actions of a president in an unofficial capacity are fair game for prosecution. Is this the resounding victory that the former president says it is?
No, and in fact, the Chief Justice in his majority opinion says that this is far short of what Donald Trump asked for. His own attorney during oral arguments conceded that many of the charges were private actions, which of course will now just move forward. The question is how the court, the lower court in this case, is going to define official acts that are immune and those that are not immune. And here, again, the Chief Justice and Justice Amy Coney Barrett in her concurrence really lay out, for instance, the charges related to Vice President Mike Pence and pressuring him not to certify the election. The Chief Justice says the government has a great argument that that was not a core presidential power. On the Arizona state legislature, Amy Coney Barrett saying, obviously not a presidential power since the president has no say over what state legislatures do. So it seems like there's a very good chance that all of the charges related to the Jack Smith prosecution on January 6th move forward, except for the one about Donald Trump's conversations with his Department of Justice employees, including potentially replacing his acting attorney general.
What do you think the Trump camp is celebrating this for, if that's the case?
Well, let's be clear. This was also a win for Donald Trump in the sense that this case will not go to trial before the election at this point. The Supreme Court's decision actually doesn't revert back to the district court for another 32 days. Then she'll have to make that decision of which acts fall into which. He can then appeal that back to the D.C. Circuit and that back to the Supreme Court. So certainly, in terms of just getting past the election, this was a huge win for Donald Trump.
Do you expect the special counsel's office is going to hurry up to try to refile here with only activities of the former president that were considered unofficial? I mean, is this a lost cause already?
Well, the special counsel could try to refile with that much narrower course of action. But I think more likely they'll probably try to move ahead and just hope that Donald Trump doesn't win this election and their prosecution can move forward. Of course, the Department of Justice took 2+ years to bring these charges in the first place. So part of the delay is certainly related to the Supreme Court decision, but the largest delay was actually with the Department of Justice in the first place.
So what is the process now for the former president, the Department of Justice, really all of America to learn what is an official act of a president and what is an unofficial act of a president?
Well, the next step, again, in about a month, will be that the district judge here, Judge Tanya Chutkan, will have a hearing on each of the charges brought by Jack Smith's special counsel team, and then they will go back and forth over whether something was a core presidential act, like that Department of Justice conversation, in which case he cannot be charged for it, whether it was a presidential act and it was official, but actually the government would not be encroaching on the powers of the presidency, hurting future presidents from being able to do their jobs, in which case their charges can move forward. And then, of course, those unofficial acts, you know, if the president shoots someone in the Oval Office, that's not a presidential power. Those can all move forward regardless.
Did this ruling today surprise you, Sarah?
Not that it was going to be remanded to have Tanya Chutkan have to decide, you know, sort of which buckets things fall into. I was surprised about the absolute immunity for those core presidential powers that they say are the ones really enumerated in the Constitution. I actually thought that the court could have handled this all under their presumption of immunity that the government could overcome if basically the interests of the public outweigh the interests of the president.
I believe heading into this also that you had spoken with the former president's attorneys to at least get a general idea of where their heads were at. Were they thinking this is where it was going to go?
They were expecting a larger win. They wanted a larger win. They, however, knew that regardless, they were going to get the delay that they wanted as long as this was going to get remanded back, which in fact it was.
Okay, and so they are celebrating, but they're still going to be busy with lots of legal actions in the future. Sarah Isgur, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
And now we are joined by Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin, a ranking member of the House Oversight Committee and a prominent member of the committee to investigate the January 6th insurrection, which recommended the former president be barred from holding office in the future. So, Congressman, thank you for joining us. Right off the bat, your reaction to today's ruling.
Well, it's a dramatic, radical break from more than 2 centuries of American jurisprudence. And nobody before had ever thought that the president really would be set above the law in this way. So I view it as a monarchist ruling by an imperial judiciary, which is now gobbling up the powers of the people as represented by Congress. And, you know, it starts off with this idea that there are certain core constitutional powers that the president exercises where he enjoys absolute immunity, whether he's acting officially or unofficially. So one of the examples of that is the pardon power. Well, that would mean that the president could simply start selling pardons, which is not a very hypothetical exercise when you're talking about somebody like Donald Trump, who thinks that, you know, everything's a deal and everything's a transaction. Could the president actually start putting pardons on eBay for $1 million? And then that he's immune from prosecution simply because he's the president. And then even outside of the core powers, the court says he has presumed absolute immunity for everything else that he does. And so look at January 6th itself. Does the president really enjoy presumed absolute immunity for trying to coerce the vice president to step outside of his constitutional role and just declare the loser the winner in a presidential contest? Well, all of those will be dressed in the official garb of the former president's arguments. You know, he says, well, I was acting officially when I tried to get him to do that, and when I urged everybody to go and attack the Capitol and to stop the steal and so on. So, look, I view this as the Supreme Court that Donald Trump gerrymandered and packed and stacked in order to overthrow Roe versus Wade, and it has stuck around to give him the almost unfathomably utopian immunity he was looking for. And it's a great danger to the American Republic and a total prostitution of our Constitution.
Of course, a lot of the discourse here is centered on what former President Trump did, what he might do if he were to be reelected. But the person with immediately given this immunity is the current president, Joe Biden. With this immunity, do you expect and do you want him to govern any differently now that he's been granted this by the Supreme Court?
No, he's a law-abiding man. He's a decent and honest man, and he would not exploit any of the hypotheticals that were floated by Donald Trump's lawyers, either in the D.C. Circuit or in the Supreme Court, like the power of the president to order out assassinations of his political rivals or to engage in other criminal activities and to have this special get-out-of-jail-free card and avoid court and avoid arrest cards that have just been dealt by the Supreme Court. So I hope and I trust he would never use any of these powers in such a dangerous way. But then you have, politicians like Donald Trump who have an essentially monarchical, narcissistic worldview. And, Donald Trump is saying that he not only is going to pardon all of the January 6th hostages or prisoners of war, but he's going to turn the Department of Justice into a weapon of retribution and vengeance against his political enemies. And that's just appalling. I mean, to compare that to Joe Biden, the Department of Justice is going after a Democratic senator in New Jersey, a Democratic congressman in Texas, and the president's own son. And he said that he will maintain an arm's length distance and relationship to the Department of Justice because the justice system has got to be independent of the will of the president. And the Supreme Court has just bulldozed that understanding and the basic precept that nobody is above the law. Suddenly, the president is above the law, even though the core job of the president is to take care that the laws of the government are faithfully executed. And this Supreme Court has completely disregarded the language, the text of the Constitution and the history of the Constitution, making a lie of all of its pretenses about fidelity to textualism and originalism.
Congressman, you have acknowledged that Democrats are having a serious conversation about what to do moving forward after President Biden's debate performance, that Biden is still central in the party, even if someone else is the candidate. What do those conversations look like?
Well, all of the conversations we're having are led by our president, Joe Biden, who won all of the delegates, and people are looking to him for a strategy to get through this nightmare of the Supreme Court and the Trump people attacking the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the rule of law. And we're looking to President Biden to get us through this terrible situation that Donald Trump and his appointed henchmen on the Supreme Court have gotten us into.
All right. Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin, thank you for your time.
You bet.
Meantime, tonight, President Biden is expected to deliver remarks on this Supreme Court ruling just about 30 minutes from now, and we're going to have that live for you when it happens. We know the president returned to the White House earlier this evening for the first time since last week's contentious debate against Donald Trump, where he was widely criticized. The president and his team now trying to ease concerns following his performance. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang.
As Democrats grow increasingly anxious, today President Biden is out of sight with his family at Camp David. His aides insisting his campaign is full steam ahead. Sources tell ABC News the president's family is encouraging him to stay in the race after his disastrous debate performance. First Lady Jill Biden telling Vogue they will not let those 90 minutes define the 4 years he's been president. We will continue to fight, adding Biden will always do what's best for the country. Publicly, most Democrats are sticking behind the president. Today, Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey, who's locked in a tough re-election battle, asked if he still thinks Biden can run a strong race and serve a second term.
Yes and yes.
But others, like Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, opening the door to the possibility that Biden may not be the nominee.
Well, the debate performance was rough. It was a very bad night for the president. But he is still the candidate. Only he can make decisions about his future candidacy. And so as long as he continues to be in the race, I support him.
The Biden campaign trying to shut down any talk of the president dropping out, insisting it would lead to weeks of chaos, internal food fighting, and a highway to losing to Donald Trump. Trump today taking it all in.
Well, they say he's not getting out, and they say getting him out is very hard because he has the delegates, he has the votes. And that if he doesn't want to get out, there's not a thing they can do about it.
And Trevor, the White House is telling me that the president will be out in public more and giving more interviews throughout the summer. I'm also told that tonight the campaign is having another call with those anxious donors. But behind the scenes, there are discussions happening about how this process could play out if President Biden chooses to step aside. Trevor?
Selena Wang, thank you. Next tonight to the unprecedented storm hitting the Caribbean at this hour, Hurricane Beryl. Now the earliest Category 4 on record in the Atlantic Basin with winds up to 150 miles per hour. We want to get right to ABC's chief meteorologist, Ginger Zee. So Ginger, where is this hurricane headed now?
So now we've got all eyes on the south coast of Dominican Republic and Haiti, Trevor, and that's where the tropical storm warning is. They'll get brushed with it first, but by midweek, Jamaica in a hurricane watch. So I want you to notice the 2 to 3 degrees above average. That's what that water is ahead of it. Super fuel for a hurricane, and actually closer to the temperature we should see in September, which is the peak of hurricane season, which is why the activity looks like the peak of hurricane season. And of course, we have a post-El Nino year, that's part of it, but also amplifying that natural variability, human emissions. So I want you then to pay attention to the track because you know it's going to stay strong. Then as it approaches the Yucatan Peninsula, it should hit by the weekend. Now, every inch is going to count though, because that high pressure system is the thing that's keeping the Gulf Coast safe. If it tracks a little farther east and it lets Beryl sneak up the west side, we'll have to be watching that much more closely by the end of next week and the start of next week. So you know we'll be tracking that for you. Just want everybody through the holiday to pay close attention. Speaking of through the holiday, we're going to build heat, and we're talking excessive heat. And we're talking days, if not a week plus, depending on when you're looking. Some of these, like Redding or Sacramento, go out for a week or more. Las Vegas in its excessive heat warning. Here in Phoenix, we're going to see the numbers climb to 116 by Friday. This coming off of their June, the hottest June on record. And I am in a full sweat right now, Trevor, because it is not a dry heat. Their dew point right now is 63 degrees. There are storms kind of popping around with the monsoon flow. So this is all that dangerous heat that we see here in Phoenix.
Well, I hope that breeze picks up for you a little bit, Ginger, but thank you very much. Beryl definitely worrisome. We know you'll be watching it. Ginger Zee. Next tonight, a major development outside Boston in the closely watched Karen Read murder case. The judge there declaring a mistrial on the 5th day of deliberations. Read was accused of killing her boyfriend, a Boston police officer, but her attorneys argue she was framed. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshev.
Tonight, a mistrial in the murder case making headlines.
You rise for the jury.
The jury hopelessly deadlocked in the trial of Karen Read, the Boston area woman accused of killing her police officer boyfriend after a night of drinking.
Despite our rigorous efforts, we continue to find ourselves at an impasse.
The judge reading the note from the jury.
To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs. I'm not going to do that to you folks. Your service is complete. I'm declaring a mistrial in this case.
Prosecutors argued Read hit her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, with her Lexus SUV outside a party at another officer's home, allegedly leaving him to die in the snow.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Those are the words of the defendant.
They pointed to evidence, pieces of a taillight found days later, an expert testifying hair found on the car belonged to O'Keefe. But the defense claimed Karen Read was framed and evidence planted.
That hair was placed there.
The defense argued Read left her boyfriend at that party where he was killed and dumped outside, and that police tried to cover it up. Defense experts said the injuries were not consistent with the impact from a car. O'Keefe's family now face a second trial. Tonight, Karen Read's team says they'll be ready.
No matter how long it takes, no matter how long they keep trying, we will not stop fighting.
Trevor, a difficult day for John O'Keefe's family. Clearly not the outcome that they were hoping for. All parties are now due back in court July 22nd. This case, far from over. Trevor?
Ariel Reshev tonight. Ariel, thank you. Today, former Trump White House chief strategist Steve Bannon reported to federal prison to begin serving his 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress. ABC's Aaron Katersky was there. He is here with us now from Danbury, Connecticut. So, Aaron, I know that we heard from Bannon as he turned himself in. What did he have to say?
He was full of bluster, almost giddy, Trevor, to be going into prison, it sounded like anyway, because he says that his movement for President Trump in his re-election campaign, his movement for a popular takeover, for retribution of Biden Justice Department officials is now going to be turned over to the people. And he says he's excited about that because he says he cannot be silenced just because he's behind bars. And I asked him today, Trevor, whether he had any regrets about defying a congressional subpoena.
I have not only no regrets, I'm actually proud of what I did, and I felt terrible if I didn't do it. I don't mind going to prison today.
But for all of that bluster, Trevor, Steve Bannon fought for 2 years to avoid this very day, filing appeal after appeal, all of them rejected following his conviction for contempt of Congress. Just last Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to intervene. Bannon said today that he feels mentally and physically ready for prison, but this is a whole different thing than he's been used to, giving the voice to former President Trump's movement for re-election.
A very visible smile heading to federal prison, but going to federal prison nonetheless. Aaron Katersky, thank you as always. And we still have much more to get to here on Prime. The latest from Utica, New York, where a community is grieving and calling for change after a fatal police shooting. But next in our Prime Focus, what happened after Oregon voted to decriminalize hard drugs? Did the change help or hurt? And what's next?
I experienced a lot of rejection, a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy. I have my days where you gotta do whatever you can to crawl out of those dark holes. You're gonna feel lonely. There was a lot of personal stuff in my life that was really falling apart. It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment. I feel like every pair of bell bottoms all come with a different story. 19 years old, pulling up to Nashville, I was terrified.
Not everybody makes it.
I was a fish out of water. At times, I was too country for country.
You were living in a trailer for a while.
I remember sitting out in this camper trailer, crying my eyes out, thinking, is it ever gonna happen? But Mom and Daddy didn't raise no quitter.
I have had the hardest 2 months of my life.
My daddy has not been doing well. We've been through a lot these past few years, and
it kind of makes me emotional. Y'all gonna see me cry again.
I was scrolling on TikTok. I noticed a few videos of my butt that had gone viral. At first, I was laughing, and I'm like, these people ain't right.
No matter what size you are beautiful.
Being a woman in country music can be tough.
And the CMA Award for Album of the Year
for Female Vocalist of the Year.
Entertainer of the Year
Goes to Lainey
Wilson.
That was a mic drop.
The Entertainer of the Year, baby.
Lainey's album, Bell Bottom Country, changed the game.
There ain't nothing better than this. Hold my beer, watch this.
What she is doing right now is changing country music.
I do see the bell bottoms and the hat as my superhero outfit.
Go, Lainey!
It's mind-blowing. It's magic.
I'm proud of myself. I really am. I have worked my ass off. Now it's time to see what's next.
That's what I'm talking about. Woo!
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture, with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food.
It's all coming up on GMA3.
You're going to love it. We'll see you then.
GMA3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us, afternoons,
for everything you need to know.
It's one of the most progressive places in the country. And nearly 4 years ago, Oregonians voted to decriminalize hard drugs. It's a move that ignited significant controversy, with some now even advocating to make those drugs illegal once again. The state's now widely considered a cautionary tale on drugs. And in tonight's Prime Focus, our Ashin Singh looks at the dilemma the state's now facing, with all sides admitting something isn't working. But the question is, what now?
Oregon is 3 years into a revolutionary approach to treating drug addiction. But in one of the most progressive states in the country, some are getting cold feet.
You just don't see as many police stopping people on the sidewalks for using drugs.
The voters of Oregon were misled about what path we were going down.
It didn't create homelessness, it didn't create crime, but I think by almost everyone's accounts, it's made all of those things worse.
It hasn't worked. We are still in an addiction crisis. We are in a housing crisis. Measure 110 cannot fix that.
In your mind, was ballot measure 110 a mistake?
We are going to walk through downtown and offer some information and resources to our community and the houseless people.
Thanks to a ballot measure in 2020, small amounts of lethal drugs have been decriminalized in the state, and open drug use is a common sight.
I come from downtown. I come from being homeless, and I accepted and asked for help and needed a lot of resources and received the help. So today I'm out here helping my people because I've been there.
You've literally been there.
Yeah. How you doing, my friend? Have you been down to the BHRC Center?
Rico Mejia.
Hey, man, good to see you.
Walks the streets of Portland with a group of volunteers from local advocacy groups.
I'm with the BHRC outreach team in Sarah.
To find people who may need treatment.
We get you down to the center and you can get a shower.
Getting those in the throes of addictions into treatment can sometimes feel like a losing battle.
Can you explain sort of this idea that recovery is a process, it's a continuum?
This is about small victories, it's about shelter, it's about building relationships. We're out here letting people know the information about our center, and a lot of times it takes people a while to receive the help. They are not going to make that split decision right away.
In 2020, voters approved ballot measure 110, which decriminalized possession of small amounts of some drugs. It provided funding to addiction recovery services, using some of the revenue generated from legal cannabis sales in the state. Basically, if you buy marijuana from a dispensary in Oregon, you're partially funding resources that help people suffering from addiction get back on their feet.
Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good.
That money helps people like Dan Hood.
We're going to discuss those 4 applications we put in. Okay.
He's looking for a steady job after a few false starts getting sober.
The new position, the staffing training, the Central City Concern just opened up today.
Let's go for it. Do you remember trying it for the first time?
I do. You feel like you can do anything in the world. You have the most confidence. Just feel unstoppable, you know?
And in that time, how often were you using and what were you using?
I was using heroin and meth every day. And then later on, I started doing fentanyl every day.
What do you want people across the country to know about this process, about what it's like, about what you guys are maybe getting right or wrong here?
The harm reduction helps a lot, man. I think it helps people get more honest. They can open up more rather than trying to hide.
You hopeful about your future?
Oh, yeah. I got nothing but to look up.
Dan credits his success to Recovery Works, an organization run by Joe Bezegi, who helps addicts get into treatment. The Recovery Center opened a year ago with funding from Measure 110.
Come on in. Welcome to Recovery Works Newburgh. This is opioid replacement therapy. So if I take this medicine, fentanyl will not have the same effect on me.
People come in completely addicted to fentanyl and get on our Sublocade program, and you'll start to see people truly change. When they're not spending their time chasing fentanyl and they're feeling good, you know, they can really be productive members of society.
We provide safe injection equipment, so a variety of different syringes.
Haven Wheelock has been working in harm reduction for decades. Now, she runs a harm reduction center in downtown Portland.
110 allows us to engage them and help them get the supports before that transition to injection happens.
And she also helped write ballot measure 110.
What have you made of the public outcry against Measure 110?
It's made me sad that people want something to blame.
Does it feel like a scapegoat?
It definitely feels like a scapegoat. I feel like people are blaming Measure 110 for problems that existed before 110. Oregon has some of the highest rates of addiction in the country. We have some of the lowest access to treatment in the country. The crisis here has been here for a long time.
How about public use, not just possession?
Public use is a messy scenario.
It's kind of a loophole.
It is a loophole, but the solution isn't putting people in jail for it. The solution is making sure people have access to housing, making sure people have safe places to use and safe places to be.
Right now, people who get tickets for open drug use are given a choice. Pay the fine or call a hotline that will direct them to treatment services while the fine goes away. Portland police are on the front lines of open drug dealing and drug use and see their duties constantly changing.
It's gone from like property crimes to stolen cars, and for the last year or so, year and a half, it's been predominantly fentanyl, where fentanyl has basically become our full-time job. But it is not a crime to use drugs in public in Oregon currently.
So what do you guys do when you do see someone using in public?
If we have outreach workers that day, we offer you the chance to talk to an outreach worker, but you're gonna get a $100 citation for possession of a controlled substance. I provide you with a treatment card. It has the screening number. That's the card.
This is the card?
You call that number to do a health screening. My understanding is they'll also pay the ticket for you.
The hotline is now seen as a symbol of Measure 110's shortcomings. After 3 years and over 7,600 drug violations, only about 200 calls have been made.
What's frustrated you about all this?
Every day I tell people about Measure 110, and we're years into this, where I'm like, oh, it's a $100 citation, the treatment card, and people are like, well, I voted for that, and then they're upset with me about it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Point blank, do you think Measure 110's been a failure?
I just work here.
3 years after the controversial policy took effect, Oregon residents want to see a change.
The issue is that they didn't implement all of the things that were needed for it to work properly here, such as shooting or smoking sites. Those implements were not in place, and so it hasn't worked.
I think maybe some changes that make it so that it's not quite so public.
A coalition of local business owners and citizens threatened to put the issue back on the ballot this fall.
How many more youth do we have to lose to this? How many more young adults do we have to bury before people start realizing it's not working?
That coalition put pressure on the legislature to fix what they see as obvious issues.
This is a kind of notorious corner here.
Max Williams is in charge of that coalition.
Everybody wants people to go to treatment, but the actual consequences of that policy and how it's worked out on the ground just didn't deliver. We decriminalized the drugs 90 days within the passage of the measure. And simultaneously, at the time, we were ranking 49th out of 50th nationwide in access to treatment.
In your mind, was ballot measure 110 a mistake?
No, I don't think I'd go as far as to say ballot measure 110 was a mistake. I think that there are pieces of it that need refinement.
Do you and your colleagues feel pressure to get this right?
Well, every time I do legislation, I feel pressure to get it right. That's fundamentally why I'm here. And legislation is really hard.
You mentioned the houselessness and mental health crisis that have existed in the state and in the city of Portland long before Measure 110 was ever introduced. Does it feel like Measure 110 is sort of a scapegoat for these pre-existing issues?
I don't think it is fair to say that somehow ballot measure 110 caused what's happening. And I think fundamentally Oregon was really unprepared for the crisis that is fentanyl because of our lack of treatment options. And we just have to fundamentally think differently about how we attack that.
Last week, the state legislature passed a bill that aims to fix some of the concerns about public drug use. Under the new policy, people caught with drugs could spend up to 180 days in jail, far more than Democrats had hoped for, and far less than the year-long jail sentence Republicans were pushing for. The bill also gives the option for a conditional discharge, allowing people to choose treatment over incarceration. But Oregon lawmakers know there's still more work to be done.
There are real issues that we cannot continue to just allow to go without an answer, because there's no magic wand that is going to somehow solve the drug crisis. It just doesn't exist.
A widespread problem with no obvious answers. Our thanks to Ashin Singh. And we still have much more to get to. Coming up here, we're meeting a 6-year-old with big plans for her lemonade stand. But next, which movies are making noise at the summer box office and which ones are falling flat? We'll break it down by the numbers.
They call him the Beauty Queen Killer. He's targeting young women in malls, posing as a photographer. Police believe he will strike again.
I am single. I am still gaining life. I want to enjoy the company of the number of women.
A string of abductions and murders.
One of the most wanted fugitives for the FBI.
Across the country, young women disappeared.
He controlled me. He tortured me.
How are you feeling? Do you remember what happened? One day at the mall,
I noticed this man standing around with a camera, watching me. Handsome, charismatic, very persuasive. He approached me. He claimed that he could make me a model. This is the one point that I regret every second of my life. Boom, 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 boom.
it just changed like that.
He had his .45 pointed at me, and I never made it home.
I'm nervous for my family, nervous for every girl. I'm nervous for you.
I got my eyes taped shut. He started electrocuting me. You have to obey.
The word accomplice came up.
They insisted that Tina was involved. Was she complicit? Or was she a victim of it? It's very strange behavior.
I have never heard a story of a serial killer letting someone go. I'm wondering if you ever think, why?
Whether you believe me or not, it's my truth. Nobody knows the real story. I felt like there was no way you can escape. What do you do? How do you get out of it? What would you do?
The Beauty Queen Killer, 9 Days of Terror. Streaming only on Hulu.
All right, let the dogs out, please.
I don't think he's gonna give you a hard time.
Even if he gives me a hard time, I'm the right guy.
You can handle it.
I want to make sure that we all learn together.
Calm, confident.
Calm, confident, calm, surrender.
Everything that he's taught has become a reality. Yeah. We are so grateful and impressed. I feel like crying. You changed our world.
It is a beautiful thing to see. As you rehabilitate the dog, you also rehabilitate you.
Hi, I'm Andy. And I'm Sabrina. And we're moms, juggling tons of stuff every day, like all you moms out there. And you know what we love? Really love? Pop culture. So what happens when being obsessed with pop culture collides with being a mom? You get us. So listen now to our new podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, Start Here.
Reporting from the Normandy coast for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Coming out of the pandemic, Hollywood was worried the silver screen would never again be in the black because people would want to keep sitting on their couches. And it turns out that's not quite true. The return of summer blockbusters is this evening's By the Numbers. Inside Out 2 from our parent company Disney just crossed the $1 billion threshold at the box office this weekend. It's the first film to do so since Barbie. And the key, perhaps, is to produce a film that the whole family can enjoy. 70% of the people in attendance during the domestic debut of Inside Out 2 were families with children. That's according to the research firm Intelligence. In fact, 1/7 of the entire audience for this film has come from teens, ages 13 to 17. It's truly a tiny age cohort. And though it might scare the little ones, there's another film this summer that is really raking it in so far. A Quiet Place Day One. It's already made $98 million at the global box office. It only opened a few days ago. But Hollywood does still have a lot of work to do to get sales back to where they were. The domestic box office remains down 40% from 2019, and you can't completely blame the price of a ticket because what you paid back in 1969 is roughly what you'll pay today when you control for inflation, which, according to Intelligence, is about $12 a ticket on average. We still have much more to get to ahead here on Prime. What do Golden Girls actress Estelle Getty, Henri Matisse, and Frank Lloyd Wright have in common? We're talking with CBS Sunday Morning host Mo Rocca to find out. And caught on camera why these thieves are celebrating even before they leave the scene.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning. To catch you up with what happened overnight. Police in riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about. The migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
Now streaming on Hulu.
I'm a rock and roll star. I'm not a saint. I'm John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi. The new special, What You Have Not Yet Seen. John Bon Jovi with Michael Strahan. Now streaming on Hulu.
3, 2, 1, go!
All aboard.
Hey, Shark!
That's really cool.
Sharkfest is back on National Geographic.
I am so excited.
Sharkfest all week long on National Geographic.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh.
And we do have breaking news we want to get to right now. President Biden speaking on the Supreme Court immunity ruling. Let's go right to the White House.
Today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States. The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone. This decision today has continued the court's attack in recent years on a wide range of long-established legal principles in our nation, from gutting voting rights and civil rights, to taking away a woman's right to choose, to today's decision that undermines the rule of law of this nation. Nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. We all saw it with our own eyes. We sat there and watched it happen that day. Attack on the police, the ransacking of the Capitol, a mob literally hunting down the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, gallows erected to hang the Vice President, Mike Pence. I think it's fair to say it was one of the darkest days in the history of America. Now the man who sent that mob to the U.S. Capitol is facing potential criminal conviction for what happened that day. And the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election. The public has a right to know the answer about what happened on January 6th before they are asked to vote again this year. Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation. So now the American people have to do what the courts should have been willing to do, but will not. The American people have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. The American people must decide whether Donald Trump's assault on our democracy on January 6th makes him unfit for public office in the highest office in the land. The American people must decide if Trump's embrace of violence to preserve his power is acceptable. Perhaps most importantly, the American people must decide They want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump, now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it. You know, at the outset of our nation, it was the character of George Washington, our first president, to define the presidency. He believed power was limited, not absolute. And that power always resides with the people, always. Now, over 200 years later, with today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it'll depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it. I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years, but any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law. I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent. May God bless you all, and may God help preserve our democracy. Thank you. And may God protect our troops.
President Joe Biden at the White House speaking after this historic ruling from the Supreme Court today. We know the president returned early to get back to the White House to make that statement to the American people, as he now, as the sitting president, has in many ways large-scale immunity, according to today's ruling by the Supreme Court. Of course, that ruling centered on the actions of former President Trump, the charges that he faces, the special counsel that brought those charges against him, largely for his actions, his alleged responsibility for the January 6th insurrection. But there are also widespread implications for former President Trump, for President Biden, and for any president that were to follow. So for much more on this, joining me is ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang. So, Selena, your reaction to the president's speech here and how the campaign is also reacting to this case.
Well, Trevor, first of all, this speech was highly scrutinized because of all of the questions surrounding the president, his mental acuity, and his vigor following that fallout from the debate. The president not seeming to make any stumbles there, but of course was reading off of a teleprompter, and he did not answer any of those shouted questions from reporters. Now, the president has been underscoring, and his campaign has been for months, that this case highlights really a central theme of his re-election campaign, which is the threat that Donald Trump poses to democracy. You heard the president there saying that this ruling undermines core fundamental American principles, that no one is above the law. The president also citing Sonia Sotomayor's dissent, saying he agrees with her assessment that the president is now a king above the law. President Biden has also been warning that if former President Trump gets a second term, that there will only be darker days ahead, that he will want to rule with absolute power without any consequences. The campaign is really using this as an opportunity to drive that warning home. In fact, earlier today, the campaign accused the justices that Trump appointed for abandoning the founding ideals of America and, quote, dissolving our democracy as we know it. Very strong statements we heard from the president there on not only the case and the ramifications of this, but also on former President Donald Trump's actions. He said the American people need to decide if they are going to vote for someone who took those actions that led to January 6th, and if those actions are presidential, Trevor.
He did also very briefly kind of reassure the American people that he's not going to take advantage of this immunity. But I am curious quickly, Selena, just on the campaign. Obviously, they're having to deal with the fallout of this debate performance. Does it seem like the strategy is to try to get the president out in front of cameras more to try to get good opportunities for him speaking?
Yeah, Trevor, well, I am told by the White House that the president does plan to be out in the public more and give more interviews throughout the summertime. We'll have to see just how all that plays out and how frequent that actually ends up being. But look, they are in full damage control here. I'm told that the Biden campaign tonight had yet another call with anxious donors trying to quell their concerns, sharing data with them, explaining why they believe the president still has a chance and could still win this. But Trevor, behind the scenes, there are discussions happening within this party about how the process could play out if President Biden chooses to step aside. But the president for now staying resolute, and he is just coming back from Camp David where he was with his family. I'm told they have been encouraging the president to stay in this race. Trevor.
Thank you, Selena. We also want to bring in attorney and ABC News analyst Sarah Isgur, who also worked as a spokesperson for the Trump administration's Department of Justice. Sarah, we talked to you a little bit earlier about this ruling, what it means, what it doesn't mean. President Biden said in this speech, among other things, he said that this ruling means there are virtually no limits to what a president can do. Is that your read on the ruling?
No, it sounds like Donald Trump's read on the ruling. But I actually expect that when the rubber hits the road here, yes, that charge about Donald Trump trying to fire his attorney general will be thrown out under this court's ruling that we got today. But the other charges related to pressuring Mike Pence, calling state legislators to pressure them to look into election fraud, all of those look very much like they'll be able to move forward. And in fact, in footnote 3 of the majority's opinion, they contemplate a president being charged with bribery, for instance. So I just don't read it as nearly as broadly as President Trump or President Biden do.
Talk to me in practicality here, Sarah. I mean, we hear a lot of hyperbole, as we do with any Supreme Court ruling here, but there's some interpretations that, all the charges are going to be dropped. There's some interpretations that now any president can do whatever they want. They can assassinate a political enemy. They could take bribes. Do we think this fundamentally changes how presidents might effectively govern moving forward?
Well, I certainly hope that the American people will actually take into account character when they vote, because what the Supreme Court's saying here is that you cannot count on the criminal law as being a backstop for everything a president might do wrong, that the Constitution basically prohibits Congress from criminalizing some presidential conduct. So you'd better not vote for a tyrant or a would-be criminal. It's not a smart move.
All right, Sarah Isgur with us and Selena Wang for us from the White House. Thank you both. And we, of course, are going to be continuing to follow this developing story, all the fallout from it. That is our show for this hour. I am Trevor Ault in for Lindsay Davis. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you, as always, for streaming with us, and we will have much more news. And coming up in the next hour, a flight from Madrid to Uruguay hit extreme turbulence. We have the latest images and an update on the injuries. But first, what the Supreme Court ruling on Trump's claims to presidential immunity mean for his legal struggles and the precedent it sets on executive powers.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, Start Here.
There is a price to be paid every time a survivor shares their story. I will not be silenced.
Do you feel the church accepted abuse?
I wouldn't say accepted it as so much pretended it didn't exist.
Yep, that's him.
Yep.
Ready? Kira Phillips with ABC News. Does your church protect sexual predators?
The powerful new Impact by Nightline. Secrets of the 2x2 Church.
There's nothing pretty about hearing this.
Now streaming on Hulu.
Whenever news breaks.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this town.
From Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike.
ABC News Live everywhere.
In Iceland, let's go.
On the 2024 campaign trail.
Here at 10 Downing Street.
Wherever the story is.
We're going to take you there.
You're streaming
ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions. Operational nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in it.
Not a tear in it.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work. Hi. Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
David, good to meet you.
Ismail? David.
David.
Yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights wherever you stream your news. Only on ABC News Live.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Good evening, everyone. This is ABC News Live Prime. I'm Trevor Alt in for Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Just moments ago, President Biden spoke publicly for the first time about the historic decision by the highest court in our nation, redefining presidential power as we know it. The highly divided Supreme Court ruling 6-3 that a president is immune to prosecution for official acts when they're in office, but not for so-called unofficial acts. They also limited what evidence could be used at trial. Now, this is considered in many ways a victory for Donald Trump. He proclaimed so on social media, quote, "The Supreme Court totally dismantled most of the charges against me." His January 6th case and his classified documents case are both now likely delayed until after the election. President Biden then weighing in for the first time just moments ago, as we said, calling on the American people to render their own judgment about Donald Trump.
The public has a right to know the answer about what happened on January 6th before they asked to vote again this year. Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation.
Our Selena Wang and Sarah Isgur are both standing by for more on the president's comments. But first, Terry Moran starts us off for the Supreme Court about how this decision will impact this presidential election and every presidency that follows.
At the Supreme Court today, a landmark decision that dramatically enhances the power of the presidency and makes it much harder to prosecute Donald Trump. At stake, whether the federal criminal case against Trump for his alleged conspiracy to overthrow the 2020 election, including January 6th, would go forward. Trump claiming as a former president he could not be prosecuted. Absolute immunity for any official acts taken while in office, and he argues everything he did then was official. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the court's 6-3 conservative majority, gave Trump much of what he sought. First, Roberts declaring the president may not be prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers. Those include, Roberts wrote, the president's commander-in-chief powers, pardon power, hiring and firing federal officials, and more. Then the Chief Justice went further. He is entitled, at a minimum, to a presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. That sets a very high bar for prosecutors to overcome, covering most of what a president does. And Roberts added another layer of protection for presidents. In dividing official from unofficial conduct, courts may not inquire into the president's motives. The bottom line, in the Trump case, the lower court judge must now sift through the evidence, separate out Trump's official acts from unofficial conduct, and see if prosecutors can overcome the presumption that presidents are immune from prosecution. That process will all but certainly push the case past the November election. Within minutes of the decision coming down, Donald Trump was declaring victory, posting on social media, "Big win for our Constitution and democracy. Proud to be an American." Much of the Chief Justice's ruling essentially echoed what Trump has been saying on the campaign trail.
I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple.
The court's three liberals seemed stunned and outraged. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in an impassioned dissent, declaring, today's decision reshapes the institution of the presidency, puts the president above the law. And she painted a grim vision of what it could mean. When he uses his official powers in any way under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune. Immune, immune, immune. And she concluded, with fear for our democracy, I dissent. President Biden's campaign saying the stakes in this election just got much higher. They just handed Donald Trump the keys to a dictatorship.
That's Terry Moran reporting. Our thanks to Terry. And now we want to turn to President Biden's reaction to today's ruling, as he has just spoken just a few moments ago. And ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang and attorney and ABC News analyst Sarah Isgur joining me now. Thank you both for being here. So, Selena, first of all, break down what's the president saying about this immunity ruling.
Yeah, well, Trevor, the president absolutely slammed the Supreme Court for their ruling on this, and he also delivered a very forceful condemnation of his predecessor, former President Donald Trump. The president here making the point that this rips apart the founding ideals of America, that no one is above the law, and delivered a warning that if former President Donald Trump was given a second term, that he would want to abuse the powers of the office. He is saying that with this ruling now, the president himself or herself needs to set their limits on their own, that there are no guardrails from the law. Now, the campaign went in even a step further, blaming these justices that Trump had appointed for, quote, dissolving our democracy as we know it. Now, the campaign is hoping that Americans remember what happened on January 6th and Trump's role in it, regardless of this Supreme Court decision. And you heard the president there again reminding Americans of what happened on January 6th. And he condemned the Supreme Court for now putting it in the hands of the American people to render the decision on whether the acts of the former president on January 6th were presidential or if he is unfit for office. Now, for the president and his campaign, this case really highlights the stakes of this election. They believe it has only raised the stakes, and they believe the Supreme Court has given Trump a free pass.
Now, Sarah, you worked as a spokesperson for the Trump administration's Department of Justice, and it seems here, based on what President Biden said, that both Biden and Trump may have they may actually agree on what this ruling means. That Biden said that there's virtually no limitations to what a president can do. But can you clarify for us, is that your read on what the ruling actually says?
No, what the Supreme Court did was divide up presidential acts into three categories. The first would be unofficial acts of the president, personal acts. Those are not immune from prosecution, same as any American. So the president's not above the law for the same stuff that you and I can do. Now, the next category is official acts of the president that are core to his power, that are laid out in the Constitution. The pardon power, for instance, is one that's been mentioned a lot because it is listed in the Constitution. They're saying, yes, the president is absolutely immune because Congress can't make any law restricting the president's pardon power. They also can't criminalize anything about the president's pardon power. Now it's this third bucket where the rubber is going to hit the road for Donald Trump. And that is the idea that there's all these other official acts that a president may take. And what the Supreme Court said is that that will be a presumption of immunity, but that prosecutors may make the argument that in this case, prosecuting the president for these acts would not impinge on any executive power that would hurt future presidents' ability to execute their job. It looks like many of the charges against Donald Trump related to January 6th would move forward under that standard.
Well, that was going to be my question, Sarah. What kind of impact do you think this decision would have on these other outstanding cases?
So in the other cases, in the Georgia case, in the Florida classified documents case, very little at all, it would seem. Again, under that presumption of immunity, of course, the president in Florida for the classified documents, he's not charged with taking the documents from the White House. He's charged with keeping them as a private citizen when the White House asked for them back, the new White House. So again, that looks like a private act, not immune whatsoever. In Georgia, while he was president during several of these charges, again, Amy Coney Barrett mentioning in her concurrence, the president has no role when it comes to calling state legislators and asking them to open investigations or vote a certain way on election fraud. That appears to be an official act that would not be covered for any sort of immunity under this decision.
Of course, Selena, we cannot ignore the context in which President Biden comes out and speaks to the nation just a few days after a widely regarded as a disastrous debate performance here. What are you hearing from how the president's team is dealing with the fallout, whether or not they're just trying to get him out in front of the country to get him speaking after it was such a debacle on the debate stage?
Yeah, Trevor. Well, first of all, these remarks from the president were highly scrutinized, closely watched to see if the president would make any stumbles. He didn't seem to make any, although he was using teleprompters. These were prepared remarks, not off the cuff. And notably, Trevor, the president did not answer any of the shouted questions from the press. Now, I'm told from the White House that the president does plan on being out in the public more and give more interviews throughout the summer. But look, the campaign here is really in damage control mode. They are trying to reassure anxious donors that the president still has a chance in this race. In fact, I'm told that there was a call with those donors tonight where they shared some internal polling, and their message is that this hasn't really changed the electorate very much, despite that debate being very, very bad. Now, behind the scenes, though, there are conversations happening within the party among high-ranking party leaders about what could happen if President Biden drops out of the race and what that process could look like. Now, the president is just coming back from Camp David. He was there with his family, and I'm told that his family encouraged the president to stay in this race. Trevor?
Selena Wang and Sarah Isger for us tonight. Thank you both. And this Supreme Court ruling hits directly at the Justice Department and Special Counsel Jack Smith. The DOJ and Special Counsel must now determine what charges against Donald Trump may be considered official acts as president and which ones are unofficial. So we want to get now to ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas. So Pierre, this could also impact the classified documents case against the former president, correct?
Indeed. Trevor, the fact that we did not get a statement from the AG or special counsel today speaks volumes. Not a single word. It tells you that DOJ officials feel the need to really study the implications of this ruling. One of the things we need to look for is whether the judge in the January 6th case, after reading the Supreme Court's decision, concludes that the prosecution needs to be much more narrowly defined. In the special counsel's documents case, there's little doubt that Trump's attorneys will now argue that when he took those classified documents, it was an official act. But a number of the charges in the documents case deal with what Trump did after he left office, including allegedly trying to keep the documents from the FBI. So the impact of today's ruling on that case is unclear, Trevor.
No doubt we'll kick the calendar down the road, though. Pierre Thomas, thank you. Next tonight, to the unprecedented storm hitting the Caribbean at this hour, Hurricane Beryl. Now, the earliest Category 4 on record in the Atlantic Basin with winds up to 150 miles per hour. We want to get right to ABC's chief meteorologist, Ginger Zee. So, Ginger, where is this hurricane headed now?
So now we've got all eyes on the south coast of Dominican Republic and Haiti, Trevor, and that's where the tropical storm warning is. They'll get brushed with it first, but by midweek, Jamaica in a hurricane watch. So I want you to notice the 2 to 3 degrees above average. That's what that water is ahead of it. Super fuel for a hurricane, and actually closer to the temperature we should see in September, which is the peak of hurricane season, which is why the activity looks like the peak of hurricane season. And of course, we have a post-El Nino year. That's part of it, but also amplifying that natural variability, human emissions. So I want you then to pay attention to the track, because you know it's going to stay strong. Then as it approaches the Yucatan Peninsula, it should hit by the weekend. Now, every inch is going to count, though, because that high pressure system is the thing that's keeping the Gulf Coast safe. If it tracks a little farther east and it lets Beryl sneak up the west side, we'll have to be watching that much more closely by the end of next week and the start of next week. So you know we'll be tracking that for you. Just want everybody through the holiday to pay close attention. Speaking of through the holiday, we're going to build heat, and we're talking excessive heat. And we're talking days, if not a week plus, depending on when you're looking. Some of these, like Redding or Sacramento, go out for a week or more. Las Vegas, an excessive heat warning. Here in Phoenix, we're going to see the numbers climb to 116 by Friday. This coming off of their June, the hottest June on record. And I am in a full sweat right now, Trevor, because it is not a dry heat. Their dew point right now is 63 degrees. There are storms kind of popping around with the monsoon flow. So this is all that dangerous heat that we see here in Phoenix.
Well, I hope that breeze picks up for you a little bit, Ginger, but thank you very much. Beryl definitely worrisome. We know you'll be watching it. Ginger Zee. Next tonight, a major development outside Boston in the closely watched Karen Read murder case. The judge declared a mistrial on the 5th day of deliberations. Read is accused of killing her boyfriend, a Boston police officer, but her attorneys argue she was framed. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshef.
Tonight, a mistrial in the murder case making headlines. The jury hopelessly deadlocked in the trial of Karen Read, the Boston area woman accused of killing her police officer boyfriend after a night of drinking.
Despite our rigorous efforts, we continue to find ourselves at an impasse.
The judge reading the note from the jury.
To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs. I'm not going to do that to you folks. Your service is complete. I'm declaring a mistrial in this case.
Prosecutors argued Read hit her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, with her Lexus SUV outside a party at another officer's home, allegedly leaving him to die in the snow.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Those are the words of the defendant.
They pointed to evidence, pieces of a taillight found days later, an expert testifying hair found on the car belonged to O'Keefe. But the defense claimed Karen Read was framed and evidence planted.
That hair was placed there.
The defense argued Read left her boyfriend at that party where he was killed and dumped outside, and that police tried to cover it up. Defense experts said the injuries were not consistent with the impact from a car. O'Keefe's family now face a second trial. Tonight, Karen Read's team says they'll be ready.
No matter how long it takes, no matter how long they keep trying, we will not stop fighting.
Ariel Resha with that report. Ariel, thank you. Now to the images coming in of a passenger plane forced to make an emergency landing after flying into severe turbulence. A flight from Madrid to South America had to be diverted to Brazil, and at least 30 people were injured, many of them thrown about the cabin, with one passenger apparently getting stuck in the ceiling. Here's Victor Oquendo.
Tonight, terrifying turbulence rocking a packed international flight, injuring at least 30 people. Video showing a passenger apparently stuck in the ceiling of the aircraft, his feet dangling over the aisle. It's unclear how he got there. You see the badly damaged, blood-stained cabin, a seat destroyed, and holes where passengers slammed into the ceiling. Paramedics seen carrying one person off the plane on a stretcher. The Air Europa flight from Spain to Uruguay, with at least 325 passengers on board, hitting turbulence over the Atlantic Ocean early this morning, making an emergency landing in Brazil. This man saying the plane suddenly destabilized and went into a dive, sending passengers without seatbelts on flying.
Victor Oquendo, thank you. And we still have much more to get to here. Coming up, the oldest zoo in the country marking a major milestone, celebrations for humans and animals today. But next, the reaction to the far right's big win in France's first round of elections. What's at stake in next week's final voting?
Whenever news breaks,
we are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this little town.
From the most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
From Charleston, South Carolina on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland, let's go.
Traveling with the president in Mexico City.
Wherever the story.
From the front lines, from southern Israel.
Outside the Gaza Strip.
In Beirut.
From the FBI.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there.
You're streaming.
ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you? I hated the Brat Pack. What a disaster.
Why did we take it as an offense?
I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium.
1985, I think we could have.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate. Militants came in from different directions.
Nuclear reactor.
So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag.
Not a tear in it.
How important it made to USA. Great work.
Hi. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ismail? David.
I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
I'm Janae Norman, reporting live on the return of panda diplomacy here in the Sichuan province of China. You're watching ABC News Live.
We're tracking several headlines around the world. In Jerusalem, hundreds of ultra-Orthodox protesters clashed with Israeli police on Sunday after the Supreme Court there ruled against conscription exemptions for Jewish seminary students. The waiver for the ultra-Orthodox has become increasingly contentious, with the Israeli armed forces waging a multi-front war with Hamas and Hezbollah. The National Rally Party made historic gains in France over the weekend, winning the first round of a parliamentary election with 33% of the vote. The far-right party, known for being nationalist and anti-immigrant, has been propelled to power by Jordan Bardella, who's now on track to become the country's youngest prime minister at age 28. And check this out. Developers in China are field testing robotic dogs to help vision-impaired people live more independent lives. Using sensors, cameras, and artificial intelligence, the robots can navigate their environment and recognize traffic signals. The robotic dogs can even respond to voice commands. They can adjust their speed by the push or pull on a cane. And now to Lindsay Lohan's planned return to the big screen in a sequel to the fan favorite Freaky Friday. It's an instance of art imitating life, as Lohan's character has gone from a teen to a mom. Here's ABC's Ika Jachi.
It's official. Freaky Friday is back.
It's going to be a really freaky Friday. Much freakier than you would expect.
We sat down with Lindsay Lohan to talk swapping bodies once again with on-screen mom Jamie Lee Curtis in the sequel to Freaky Friday, over 20 years after the original hit.
I want my friends. I want to eat whatever I want when I want. Mommy.
I know, sweetie. It's a hard day.
Now, listen, we are all thrilled about the forthcoming Freaky Friday, too, right? This is very exciting.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, we all just have so much fun, and it's so great to have that on set. You just always really want to have a good time. So it's just, yeah, a lot of love, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. It's a great experience.
Tell me about being on set again, just being back in that mood.
I think really for me, it was when I went on to the Disney lot and being back on the Disney lot, because that's not just Freaky Friday for me. That's The Parent Trap.
This is so freaky.
That's Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. That's Herbie. It's so many moments for me. So when I got there, I kind of felt like this essence of a little kid again.
Jamie Lee Curtis, she's been so supportive of you over the years. How's that bond been between both of you?
Jamie and I have stayed in touch over the years. So it's kind of, you know, they always say, like, when you have a best friend or someone who you're really close with, if you cannot see them for years and years, but when you see them again, it's like you never separated. I think just always women supporting women is such an incredible thing.
What's it like to get back into her head, per se?
Oh, well, I can't say much. But I am taking guitar lessons. And I do have a daughter in the movie.
And life imitates art. Lohan is a new mom. Baby Luai, her son with husband Bader Shammas, born last summer, she says bringing her the most joy.
How are you enjoying life in this chapter and also motherhood?
I'm so grateful for every moment of it, just every second. Every morning waking up and running to grab my son and just looking at him, and when he looks me back in the eyes, it's just, I'm gonna like get emotional. It's just the most beautiful. I'm just so grateful every day. You know, we always move so fast, so I feel like that's the one thing I've learned over time, and taking time for myself and really just cherishing every moment.
And a fresh partnership helping to keep the new mom's energy up.
When was the last time you took a break? I have partnered with Pure Leaf for their new tea break campaign, which is great because I am a big tea lover personally. And it's really important that we take time out in our crazy busy schedules every day to take a tea break. Whenever you can find the time, if you feel like you're so on the go, I always feel like juggling so many hats and now being a new mom and everything, and filming and being a wife and a daughter and a sister, it's nice to take time for yourself.
This movie star mom also getting ready to celebrate her and her son's birthday. A reminder she says puts everything into perspective.
How do you plan to celebrate?
I mean, I always just want to be with family. And I feel like, you know, as you get older in life, the less is more. So yeah, just spending it together. And for my son, I don't know, we're gonna do something fun. I'm gonna get him a bouncy house and
those are
make
always
it
the
fun
best,
for him.
too. The bouncy houses, I can go on those right now.
Yeah, it'll be fun for all of us. Like, he needs me in there.
Yeah.
Our thanks to Ike, and still to come, celebrating 150 years at the Philadelphia Zoo. It is the oldest zoo in the nation.
What do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
Let's go.
The ship is incredible. It feels like living in a science fiction movie.
We just saw what no one has seen before.
Wow, look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, dead ahead. Tag on!
We are heading into the unknown.
Hammer, hammer, hammer.
It doesn't get any more cutting edge than this.
All right, let the dogs out, please.
I don't think he's gonna give you a hard time.
Even if he gives me a hard time, I'm the right guy. I want to make sure that we all learn together.
Calm, confident.
Calm, confident, calm, surrender.
Everything that he's taught has become a reality.
Yeah.
We are so grateful and impressed. I feel like crying. You changed our world.
It is a beautiful thing to see. As you rehabilitate the dog, you also rehabilitate you.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation.
Is this our Combat Operations Center?
We're approaching the gate. Militants came in from different directions. Nuclear reactor. So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag...
Not a carry in it.
How important it made the USA. Great work.
Hi, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ismail? David.
David.
I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Not many zoos can claim that the tortoise you saw chomp on celery as a child is the same tortoise your great-grandparents enjoyed 90 years earlier. But the Philadelphia Zoo can say that. It's celebrating its 150th anniversary, and reporter Catherine Scott from our partner station WPVI celebrates the zoo tonight in our local lowdown.
Philadelphia Zoo first opened its gates on July 1st, 1874. The official grand opening delayed due to the Civil War. More than 3,000 people came that day to see the first zoo of its kind in the country.
150 years, nearly 100 million guests over that time. It's very exciting.
With our chocolate brownie, apple pie, and rainbow milkshakes, the zoo's newest sweet treats, we discuss what's changed and what stayed the same. Cheers. The Solitude remains. It's the oldest building on zoo grounds. Look at that ceiling, built by William Penn's grandson in 1784 and later purchased by the city. The Penrose Research Laboratory was built in 1901, the first of its kind animal health laboratory. Present-day residents include Big Brown, Little Brown, and Freckles, and Collie cattle. Their horns can grow up to 8 feet. Then there's Little Trooper, a 9-banded armadillo who enjoyed rooting for bugs.
They're gonna use their nose to sniff, sniff, sniff out any sort of grub or bug.
But Mommy the Galapagos tortoise gets a special mention. She's lived at the zoo since April 23rd, 1932. Loves mud and celery.
I probably saw her when I was here as a kid with my grandparents. My mom probably saw her when she was here as a kid. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's amazing. She's actually been here for more than half of the zoo's 150 years of welcoming guests. So she has probably met more than half of our guests.
While the zoo is ever changing, their messages of education and conservation have remained in place.
We are unbelievably proud to have been able to serve not just the city of Philadelphia, but the world of wildlife for the last 150 years.
In the coming months, the Philadelphia Zoo will be announcing a major exhibit renovation and expansion. Here's to another 150.
Our thanks to Catherine Scott, and that is our show for tonight. I'm Trevor Alden for Lindsay Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. And you can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10th, 1985,